Joe Ranieri, Donnie right side, hottest topics in sports, which includes this. Let me give you the preface on this one on the box score. Luka Doncic drops 30 points. That's a triple-double. You take a look at Kyrie Irving, 10 of 19 from the field, 27 points. Steph Curry only scores 13 points. You know who won that basketball game? No, it wasn't the Dallas Mavericks. It was the Golden State Warriors, 104-100 over the Mavericks. Defense, defense, defense for the Golden State Warriors.
Well, I mean, just nobody else stepped up for Dallas. Everybody stepped up outside of the guys you mentioned there. I mean, Wiggins, where's that Wiggins been exactly? We've been kind of waiting here. Drops 23 with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. Not exactly the best, but you know what? It was good enough to beat the one-man show and the Dallas Mavericks, because that's about what it was with his triple-double.
It was. It's one, I'm telling you, the Dallas Mavericks are one of those teams, Joe, I'm really rooting for it to get into the playoffs and do some damage just because I like their top 1-2 punch. Yep. It's a lot of fun to watch when it rolls out there. Just didn't work yesterday. And again, if you're just reading the box score, that should have been a runaway, easy victory for the Mavericks, and it just wasn't. Yep. Great win there for the Warriors, trying to stave off those Houston Rockets for that final spot to get into the play-in rounds. You take a look at the next game here, the Denver Nuggets, 110-105 over the San Antonio Spurs. This is why we love Nicola Jokic. Typically, he has his starting lineup out there and says, you know what, I'll get mine when I need to, but I'm going to get everybody else involved. Not the case last night. 42 points and 16 rebounds in a 5-point victory over the San Antonio Spurs. No Jamal Murray in the lineup, no problem. You take a look at Jokic. This is why he's the MVP right now of the NBA.
And also, this is why you never ever lay 16, 17 points when you're going up against a guy like Wemby that can absolutely match him there. 23, 15, and 8. I think he had 9 blocks, almost a quadruple double. And oh yeah, by the way, they may not have won, but like all great teams, Donnie, the San Antonio Spurs covered in Denver last night.
There you go. Wembanyama and the boys get the cover. That's what's most important here. You didn't win a basketball game. You get better ping pong balls here. So it all worked out in their favor last night. Now, one thing we were waiting for here in Philadelphia, much like a big return from Joel Embiid, was where's Bryce Harper been? No hits on the season. We came through in a big way yesterday, Joe. A 9-4 victory for the Phillies over the Cincinnati Reds. And Bryce Harper, 3 for 4 at the plate, 6 RBI, 3 home runs, which included a grand slam. And by the way, if you watch the highlights, was robbed by Will Benson in center field for another RBI double. He was on it last night in the freezing cold, rainy conditions at Citizens Bank Ballpark yesterday. Big win for the Phillies, but a bigger night by Bryce Harper.
Yeah, well, it's about time, especially those that have him on our fantasy team here. You know, the last Philadelphia Philly to hit 3 home runs in a game, including a grand slam? You're a Philly guy.
Oh.
How about Jason Worth back in 2008? Wow, blast from the past there, huh?
Good old Jason. Hey, man, we were winning titles back in 08 at that point with Jason Worth. So shout out to the 08 Phillies bringing home the championship. Maybe that's a sign to come this year for the 2024 Philadelphia Phillies. I'll tell you a sign to come here. If you're not watching the NIT, maybe you're doing it wrong. Indiana State, 100. Utah, 90. They advance into the finals. Seton Hall in Georgia. Seton Hall, 84-67 over Georgia. Indiana State, Seton Hall for all the marbles in the NIT.
And it should be an awful lot of fun watching that one go down. You know, the mid-major looking for respect. Seton Hall, feels like they might have been slighted in the tournament. So here we go. Buckle up. Should be a good one.
It's, by the way, like, I know you can't, have revisionist history, but it is like we wanted Indiana State in the tournament. They've been playing good basketball. Seton Hall probably should have been in the tournament, now playing great basketball. So maybe they can cut down the nets just in a different tournament from what they actually wanted to be in. I'll tell you who's cutting down the nets right now, and that's the network executives here that are showing women's hoops. 12.3 million people watched Iowa LSU. No surprise, I was one of those 12.3 million people. Joe Ranieri was one of those 12.3 million people. It was a good deal all the way around, lived up to the hype, and good to see the growth of the women's game here.
I would also imagine that the handle at FanDuel was probably the biggest it's been in a very, very long time on women's basketball. So it's a win-win, and Donnie, the numbers will probably be even bigger coming up for the Final Four.
Hey, by the way, like we see the Final Four coming up here next to the national championship game. You're going to be able to bet at the FanDuel Sportsbook on those props here. I don't hear the women complaining about the props. Why is it always the men complaining about, oh, no, somebody's yelling, somebody needs to cash me in a prop? Caitlin Clark Get me 3 more assists. He's going to, like, you know what? I got you up there. I got it done here. So let's continue on this madness here moving forward, which includes the Kansas City Chiefs signing Clyde Edwards-Helaire to a 1-year deal. Running backs this year cashing tickets. Now, granted, he didn't come back to the Chiefs on a very big deal, but also sidebar here. Are we looking at a new stadium in Kansas City for both the Royals and the Kansas City Chiefs? Probably not. Was voted down yesterday, where Kansas City is saying, we're not paying billionaires to become trillionaires at this point here. So double-edged sword there for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Good for them here. I'm wondering, have they found Rice yet? No, that's a different story. But yeah, listen, good for Clyde Edwards-Helaire because, yes, they're going to need to keep as many of those pieces that are affordable as possible for this next coming season and beyond with your $400 million quarterback.
Yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that first-round draft pick after the Super Bowl that they won, seemingly lost his job to Isaiah Pacheco, and rightfully so. Also, they brought in J.K. Dobbins for a look-see yesterday as a visit. So players signing up at running back by committee, that's really the new wave in the NFL. Don't let this offseason and free agency fool you at that point here. But I'll tell you who fooled us yesterday. It was Joel Embiid. It was the Philadelphia 76ers. It was the Thunder. Let's cover the NBA next. What actually happened yesterday right here on the Early Line.